we have a live testimonial as well. We have asked Alice to be with us today, and we're so happy that she said yes to us to share her passions. So Alice, I think you have many passions. I think you have passion about traveling as well. You have passion about modeling, fashion, and some more. But please just tell us about it.
Hi. Yes, I have lots of passions. My name is Elisa Alessandro. I'm a plus size model and lifestyle influencer who focuses on creating fashion, travel, LGBTQ plus content on my blog, readytostare.com, and across my social media platforms, which reach a combined 1 million impressions every month. Sometimes my life is super glamorous. I'm coming to you from a 5-star hotel. Sometimes I'm on the road and coming to you from the comforts of my car. Luckily, I've made authenticity a huge part of my platform, which is where my diabetes diagnosis comes in. 6.5 years ago, I sat in my doctor's office. I was getting ready to leave for my first cruise the next day. And I'd gone in a few days prior for a physical because I wanted to get a prescription for motion sickness patches. I realized when I was writing about this that you all probably, if you're not in the US, don't have this problem because you have great healthcare. But here you kind of have to like sometimes trick the system. So if you go for a physical rather than I need motion sickness patches, they'll cover it. So I went for a whole physical instead of what I really wanted, which was these motion sickness patches. And thank God that I did decide to do the appointment that way because my doctor, who insisted I came for a follow-up, told me that I had diabetes and that I had type 2 diabetes, and I was only 28 years old. And my first question was, can I still go on the cruise? Which I think is a testament to how much I genuinely love traveling. And I was also really in shock. Diabetes runs in my family. I knew that there was always a possibility. Both of my grandparents passed from complications of diabetes, but you know, they were older. I'm only 28. I didn't think that this would happen to me so soon. So I was really in shock. But I ended up going on the cruise the next day. Literally got my diagnosis on a Friday, and on Saturday I was on a plane to Miami to leave for the cruise because I really decided that I just wasn't going to let diabetes change my life too much. So while I was on that cruise, and I went on a deep sea submarine tour, I went zip lining, cave tubing, and I hung on the beach with my friends. The majority of people didn't even know that I went on this cruise just a day after finding out I had diabetes. Over my first year of being diagnosed, I made the choice not to discuss having diabetes publicly on my platform. Like I said, I already at that point had this public platform as a plus size model and someone who had spoken a lot about body positivity. And I decided to use that first year as a challenge to myself to conquer my own fears. I made a conscious decision that I was going to spend that first year living with diabetes and not living in fear of diabetes. My motto became, it's okay to be afraid, but do it anyways. This brought some of my biggest personal and professional accomplishments. In addition to ziplining, which by the way was very scary, I went horseback riding for the first time in years. I did a lot of business related traveling. I was on Good Morning America. I did a lot of speaking engagements, modeling jobs all over the world, pushed myself creatively. I did a lot of long editorial shoots. And I was also making jewelry at the time. So I turned out a lot of jewelry orders on tight deadlines. When I first found out I had diabetes, I remember calling and telling a friend at the time, that I had gotten this diagnosis. And I'll never forget what he said. And perhaps maybe somebody has said this to you before. I'm sure you feel like this is a death sentence. And the fact that that's how he decided to word it, it still honestly makes me mad 6 years later, because society trains us to believe that being in a larger body and having diabetes are some of the worst things that can happen to you. As someone living in a larger body and existing on the internet, I have been told you're going to die, you're going to get diabetes, you're going to have heart disease, all of these things. People look at me as a plus size model and assume the worst. And one of the worst things they assume that could happen to me is having diabetes. And I used to always say, you can't tell someone's health by looking at them. Like, just because I'm in a larger body, that doesn't mean I have diabetes. But now I did have diabetes, right? And that worst thing that someone could say about me, it was now true. But I realized that while it was true, it didn't necessarily mean what they felt that it meant, that my life was over, that this was a death sentence. The worst thing that someone could wish upon me to try to get me to hate myself, like I have it and I'm living it. I'm living this unafraid life. So I came to realize that the reactions that people have to having type 2 diabetes are often projections of their own fear. But that fear belongs to them, not to me. I know that this diagnosis is not a death sentence. People of all sizes live and thrive every day with diabetes. I think the 2 talks we've already heard today are such a proud testament to that. And my own diagnosis gave me a major key to understanding what was going on in my body. Either way, my body had diabetes, and now I could work to treat it. That knowledge was ultimately really powerful. So, a year after my diagnosis, I decided to talk about living with type 2 diabetes on my platform because I wanted other larger bodied people living with diabetes to know that they aren't alone. I didn't want anyone else to feel that guilt or shame that we're told to feel as people with larger bodies who have type 2 diabetes. Because when I was diagnosed, I really couldn't find anyone who looked like me, who was out there talking about it and challenging that stigma. Um, so I'd made the decision to kind of live publicly. And another way that I was able to be visible and living with type 2 diabetes is when I started wearing my Freestyle Libre continuous glucose monitor. So I started wearing it during the pandemic when we were in lockdown. So I didn't really get any public feedback to it because I was at my home by myself. And the first time that I wore it out, literally a stranger like tapped me on the shoulder and was like, "Is that one of those things for diabetes?" And I was really taken aback that a stranger would ask me about it because, I built so much of my platform on, you can't tell someone's health by looking at them, and not all people in larger bodies have diabetes. But now I realized that wearing a CGM outs me as a person living with diabetes. I realized that this was a way that someone could tell that I had diabetes just by looking at me. And I decided that this could be a way to educate folks about living with type 2 diabetes. So I made the choice to wear my CGM proudly in my modeling campaigns. I have had photographers ask me if I wanted them to Photoshop it out in photos, and I told them absolutely not. Like, if you can see my CGM, I want it there because that's part of who I am. Living with diabetes is part of who I am, just like being plus size or the fact that I'm queer. I can't take off this part of my identity. I can't take it off when it's convenient. No, I'm going to have diabetes every day. That's just not something I can change. And I realized that, I'm not the manifestation of someone's greatest fear. I'm a person worthy of being treated with respect and dignity. And I also have realized through doing some of these talks and meeting some amazing folks with type 1 diabetes that I can hopefully help to bridge the gap, right? Because we're in this together. The stigma that people have against type 2 diabetics, it affects you all as well. So I just want to kind of help recognize that we can do the work together. Our journeys aren't the same, but we can certainly learn from each other. Only a few weeks after my diagnosis, I met with a diabetes educator and I told her about the things I'd been researching, and I asked her some questions. Her approach was really kind and empathetic. And one thing she said to me that has really framed my diagnosis and my treatment moving forward is she said, "Don't let diabetes define you because it doesn't have to." Diabetes has changed my life, but not in the way that you may think. Diabetes made me less afraid to take risks, and it started me on a process of inquiry. I don't know that I would have been able to go on otherwise because passion has always ruled my life. I've always been a very passion driven person, passionate about fashion, passionate about inclusivity, advocacy, and passionate about travel. And I think that diabetes has made me even less afraid to take chances. I've become an international ambassador now for Freestyle Libre. I've been on billboards, runways, I've traveled the world, all while living with diabetes. But don't worry, this isn't just about me, because diabetes made me mindful of the ways that we talk to and about people living with this disease. It made me want to fight the stigma, not just for myself, but for all of us.